And now you're currently county executive out at
Allegheny County, the second largest county in the state, elected.
Now, do you favor a severance tax on natural gas drilling? And if
Yes.
so, why or why not?
I do, and it's a big difference between me and my opponent. I believe that the Marcellus Shale is a golden opportunity with a lot of risk. But here's what I proposed. Severance tax, and what I would do with the money. One, I would fund the Department of Environmental Protection. Took a 28% cut in last year's budget. You can't be drilling in all of our counties and not have a Department of Environmental Protection. So we'll fund DEP. Two, I would do an impact fund. That would put money aside for all the municipalities for their roads, their water lines, their sewer lines, a lot of wear and tear from the industry. They're going to pay for it. And three, I would do a growing greener fund. We preserve farmland, preserve open space, and help clean up brownfields. Then there's a fourth component. If I'm governor, before I give a permit to drill, there's going to be an understanding with the industry. Those 100,000 jobs in the next 18 months, they're going to hire Pennsylvanians, not Texas, not Oklahoma. They're going to hire our people. If we do this in the right, environmentally responsible way, we can make it a win-win for us. My opponent, no regulations, no tax, wants the industry to do what they want on their own. That's dangerous. We're going to make sure that they do this in an environmentally safe way. Full disclosure, show us what's in the water, what chemicals you're using, put it up, let the public see it. As governor, I'm going to make sure that we hold their feet to the fire to do it the right way.
Now, some people that live near drilling sites are worried about the water quality. What would you say to them? I mean, do you plan on putting regulations in place? And if so, what type of regulations, and when would you like to see those enacted?
First of all, we will have strong regulations, but they don't mean anything unless you have a Department of Environmental Protection with bodies to enforce it. So that's why I support the severance tax, so that we can fund DEP, put people on the payroll to go out and monitor the water, the environment, the environmental impact. You need to be able to enforce it. And the beauty of this is, we don't need to go to the taxpayers to pay for it. Severance tax, the industry will pay for it. They will pay for us so we can monitor what they're doing. If we have proper regulations and proper enforcement, then we bring some confidence back to the system.
And what type of regulations would you like to see enacted?
Well, I would review what we currently have. There's a lot of proposals out there, but whatever we do, it would have to be very strong to make sure that we're monitoring what's happening to the water quality level for drinking, to the rivers and streams, and also to the quantity of water they're taking. All of those water issues have to be dealt with up front. The only good news right now is Marcellus Shale is at the very beginning of what they want to do for the next 10 years. We have a very short window to get this right and to put the regs in place and the proper enforcement in place. That's why I've released a comprehensive plan of what I would do. My opponent, no plan. Let the market do what it wants to do, not with this industry. There's too many risks. Let's get it right.
And you know, the last 2 years the state has had to cut the budget. In 2009 it cut it harsher than it did in 2010. But what do you think of the budget you would inherit if you become governor?
Well, I made it very clear. I run the second largest county. We haven't raised property taxes for 9 years in a row. I've held the line on property tax for 9 years in a row, and we shrunk the government. The state's got to learn to live within its means, just like the people do in Pennsylvania. The state's broke, and a lot of people are broke. This is no time to raise taxes. We are not raising income tax. We are not raising a sales tax. This $28 billion budget the state has, they got to learn to live within that budget. And as governor, I'll make sure they live within that budget.
And would that maybe mean reducing the staffing levels at the legislator size, or maybe even going in and revamping the size of the legislature?
Well, I mean, I could give you examples right now. There's $200 million sitting in the legislature account called leadership account. I would move that immediately. $200 million, they shouldn't be sitting on cash like that. $28 billion budget. I believe we can find some efficiencies in how we spend money. Let's say you find 1%. 1% on $28 billion is $280 million. 2%, you're almost at $600 million. Plus the $200 million in the legislature, you're going to get to $1 billion relatively quickly just by being more efficient and eliminating some of the wasteful expenditures on consultants and other areas. PennDOT and Turnpike, maybe they should be merged. Look for efficiencies there. I'm going to look for all of these changes in governance, which I did in Allegheny County, by the way. I eliminated 6 elected offices, consolidated 5 911 centers into one. We've saved millions. I'm going to do it for the state too.
And there's been a lot of talk about our roads, our bridges, our infrastructure here in the state that need to be revamped, and sometimes they haven't been maybe properly funded as they should. What do you think about that, and how would you address that as governor?
Well, PennDOT and DEP got to start by making sure that every dollar they have is going to roads and bridges, and not waste anything on ancillary activities that we don't need, and there's a lot of them. We also should look at creative ways to fund some project, public-private partnerships. There's private companies that would love to do the development along our highways. If we can get them to invest, we'll take some private money too, and then ultimately find some dedicated funding. For example, right now, $500 million of money in the operating budget that was earmarked for roads goes to pay for the state police. If we could find a better way to pay for the state police in the general fund, that $500 million could be put back into roads. And finding efficiencies in state government will allow us to fund the state police through the operating budget and let the gas tax stay where it was over in the roads and bridges. You can do that without raising taxes.
And by privatizing some of the roads, would that...
Not privatize the roads.
Oh.
Using a public-private partnership where development along the side of the roads, we give them access to it and they'll give us some money. I don't believe in selling our assets.
Oh.
These are public-private partnerships for roads.
So these would be like businesses coming in and setting up gas stations alongside of the interstate, maybe where there's not any development currently?
We'll let the market decide that and put out some RFPs and get some ideas, and if it makes sense, we'll be willing to think outside the box a little bit of how we do this. But it's a combination of all these things, because that's not going to be the only answer that works. We got to look at really finding some dedicated revenues that go there within the system.
And one last question. You know, we have PNC Field where the Wilkes-Barre-Scranton Yankees play, and Governor Rendell announced he would help give $20 million worth of state money to help build a new stadium. Do you think state money should be used to help construct stadiums?
Well, let me just say that I think there's a role for state capital money for economic development, especially as it relates to cleaning up old industrial sites and getting them shoveled ready, pad ready for development. That's a good economic advantage we would have over states around us who are also trying to compete. We got to be creative. As it relates to a specific project, every project would have to be evaluated and be able to stand on its own as it relates to its economic impact. I'd have to see what that project is, but I will tell you, if we're going to use state money as governor, and I'm willing to use it on a limited basis, it's going to go into true economic activity, infrastructure, old industrial site cleanup, shovel-ready pad preparation, real economic activity.